I like to think of prospect development as like this really, really well-oiled machine. It has all these different moving parts. Fundraising and advancement have all these different moving parts. We're looking at like annual fund, major gifts, planned gifts, volunteers, members, etc. All these different moving pieces, but working very well in collaboration and in cooperation with each other. So that's like, I'm a visual person, and this is the visual that I keep in mind quite often when it comes to prospect development and fundraising. Unfortunately, this is the version that most organizations face. So it's sort of dirty, outdated, underutilized, dusty, who knows what's going on in the background. And so this is what I like to help organizations fix and resolve so that they can be about the business of impact and generating support for their impact. So how do you go from this to that sort of well-oiled machine? Another way that I like to look at prospect development and define it is all the different elements that go into prospect development. So a lot of us are familiar with prospect research, give me a donor profile, tell me what you can about this super rich person, etc. But it's more than that. It's more than research. In fact, we have sort of a movement within the prospect development industry that it's more than research. It's also moves management. So how do you move your donors and your prospects along the donor cycle and the cultivation cycle? How do you move it? How do you move them? How do you track all of that movement? And how does that play into your metrics? How do you report it out? Definitely includes analysis and analytics. So we're taking a look at wealth. We're doing wealth analysis. We're doing data analysis. So analytics is another big part of it. The reporting is a huge part of prospect development. So not just what goes into your database, but how do you pull it out in a meaningful way? How do you share out your fundraising and advancement impact with your board members, with your fundraisers, with your staff, etc., with your management? And then strategy is a huge piece of prospect development. And so it's sort of like this umbrella, and it's definitely more than research. It is all of these things. I also like to call out the bottom line. And so the bottom line of prospect development is that you get to automate donor relations for lower dollar gifts. It helps you segment your data in a really efficient and useful way. That allows you to make space for those big transformational gifts. We've talked about the analysis and pipeline development and who to ask for what. Like, is this a $50 donor? Can they do 500,000, etc.? And once we know that type of information, then we can create a more targeted donor strategy and then improve stewardship, improve donor relations, etc. All of that is true. All of that is great. I'm a fundraiser, and I like to focus on the very bottom line. So the bottom line is increased engagement and increased giving. That is the bottom line benefit of prospect development. Another way to look at that, so oftentimes organizations come to me and they're like, oh, we're a great organization, we offer great services, we have great impact, etc. We're going to do a $10 million campaign, or it could be 100 million, or it could be 3 million. The number kind of doesn't matter. But most people don't realize that when you're talking about numbers like that, and when you're talking about major gift prospects and major giving campaigns in large dollar campaigns, which are driven oftentimes by major gifts, you need anywhere between 5 to 10 prospects per gift. So that means if let's just do $1 million. If you have $1 million campaign, then your prospect pool needs to have the equivalent of about $5 to $10 million. Knowing that every prospect is not going to give you a gift, Every prospect is not going to give you a gift at the level that you want. So I like to share sort of level set and help people be aware of the expectation. Because oftentimes orgs come to me and are like, hey, we just need prospects, give us the names. But then when we dig into it, they realize, well, maybe our campaign goals are a bit inflated. Maybe we don't have the prospect pool to support a $50 million campaign, and we've only been around for 3 years, and we have a database of 100 names. So sometimes it can help when we think about like our feasibility as well. Another thing that I just want to quickly point out is that teams that utilize prospect development, 75% of all new and increased gifts come in through prospect development efforts. And so I want to remind you here that everyone can prospect, even you and even your organization. And so there's benefit to doing this type of work. And then the other stat here is that 80 to 85% of the teams that do prospecting, they reach their goal in comparison to just about a little over half of those that don't. So there is some value here, especially when we're talking about $1 million campaigns.